36-20. Now, Dan Quinn is a Pete Carroll disciple. Pete Carroll is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So it was bittersweet for Pete Carroll. Yeah, he was happy for his prodigy, Dan Quinn, but of course, he wanted to win the game. And I ask you guys this in podcast land. Is it now time to take the Atlanta Falcons seriously? Matt Ryan is a bona fide MVP candidate. Had an MVP caliber regular season, man. And Matt Ryan showed off in this game versus the Atlanta Falcons, versus the Seattle Seahawks. Ryan had over 330 yards passing, 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers, man. Now, Matt Ryan, previous to this win, was 1-4 in playoff appearances, so he got that proverbial monkey off of his back, man. And Dan Quinn, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, man, he is a defensive-minded coach, was the defensive coordinator in Seattle under Carroll, has done a fantastic job with this Falcons defense. Now, they're not the best defense in the NFL, but they rattled Russell Wilson all game long, man. Russell Wilson ended up throwing 2 interceptions in that game, man, and the Falcons shut down the running game of the Seattle Seahawks, man. Now, Seahawks have had troubles running the ball all season long, man. Beast mode, they really miss you, bruh. They miss you, man. They have not been able to run the ball with any consistency all season. But with that being said, it was a pretty close game in the first half. The Seahawks actually had a 10-7 lead, and they were actually looking to build on that lead. Newly signed to the playoffs, Devin Hester, he returned a punt to the Atlanta 7-yard line. It was called back for a penalty. Backed Seattle all the way up. On the ensuing play, Seattle got a safety. Atlanta's defense sacked Russell Wilson in the end zone, got a safety. That turned the game around, and Atlanta never looked back. 36-20 winners over the Seattle Seahawks. Atlanta will be hosting the NFC Championship game. And the opponent that the Falcons will be playing may surprise you. It didn't surprise me. Green Bay took on Dallas in Jerry's World in the other NFC, quarterfinal game, so to speak. And Green Bay is led by Mr. Everything, man on fire like Denzel in the movie Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers has, had a great run as of late. Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown an interception in like 8 games or something like that. Don't quote me on the 8 games, but it's been a while since Aaron Rodgers has thrown an interception. And in the first half, man, between this Packers and Dallas game, Aaron Rodgers looked like Denzel, man on fire. And Green Bay had a 21-3 lead midway through that second quarter over the boys. I was like, oh man, the boys are in trouble. Are they going to go to Tony Romo? What's going on with Dak, man? But they stuck with Dak Prescott, and the boys came back. Dak played a great game, man. Dak had, over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Dez Bryant showed up for the Cowboys. 9 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott, the NFL's leading rusher, he showed up. 125 yards on the ground. But they just could not overcome the brilliance that is Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers had 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception, but Aaron Rodgers made the play of the game when the Packers needed it the most. Now, the boys came back, man, to tie the game at 28. Insert a very, very clutch 56-yard kick by Mason Crosby, and the Packers went up 31-28. But Dallas came back. Dak came back, put themselves in a position to tie the game. Dan Bailey had a 52-yard field goal to tie it at 31. So, it was about 50 seconds left after that kick to tie it up by Dan Bailey. You would think that, 50 seconds is not a lot of time. Green Bay doesn't have that many time. I don't think they had any timeouts left, but there goes her A-Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers did the unthinkable. On a 3rd and 20, found tight end Jared Cook on the sideline for a 35-yard pass and catch, which set up a 50-yard field goal by Mason Crosby, which proved to be the game winner as time expired. Green Bay Packers 34, Dallas Cowboys 31. All you Cowboys fans, don't cry for me, Argentina. Hey, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm not a Cowboys hater. Well, yes, I am. I don't like the Cowboys. My wife likes the Cowboys, but I don't like the Cowboys. I got a lot of Cowboys fans in my family, man. Older brother Los B loves the Cowboys. I don't like the Cowboys, man. I'm a 49ers fan. So you know what the Cowboys are doing right now? They're chilling at the crib with the 49ers. Come on in, the door's wide open. So the NFC Championship is set up between the Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be played in Atlanta. Green Bay is cooking right now. They have won 8 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. I think 9 games in a row. Atlanta playing great ball. It's going to be a good NFC Championship game. Now, of course, these two teams are led by their quarterbacks. So, in my humble, whoever has the better game from the quarterback position, that's who's going to win this game. So we're going to talk about that on next week's episode of the All Things Sport podcast. So that is the NFC Championship matchups. Let's move on to the AFC games. Now, of course, I'm going to start with the New England Patriots over the Houston Texans, man. I think this game was a foregone conclusion. Billy Badass, Bill Belichick, and Tom Terrific. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots 34, the Houston Texans 16. Now, New England seemed like they were just holding something back in this game. Looked like they were playing around with Houston. It was actually a 1-point game. New England had a 14-13 lead late in the second quarter, and it was a brilliant goal line stand by the Houston Texans that forced a Steven Gostkowski field goal late in the first half that gave New England a 17-13 halftime lead. But in the second half, Houston's quarterback Brock Osweiler has done what he's done. He did what he's done all season: throw interceptions. Brock Osweiler, man, I feel for you, bruh. You left Denver, got a huge contract from the Texans, and you stunk it up all season long. You played so bad this season that you were benched for Tom Savage. Most people don't even know who Tom Savage is. And Tom Savage got hurt. Now, luckily for you, in last week's playoff game, you got your face back against the Oakland Raiders. Now, the Oakland Raiders were playing, without their quarterback, Derek Carr, so the Houston Texans were able to beat the Raiders in that divisional round matchup, in that wild card matchup, But in this divisional round game versus the New England Patriots, the Texans, they were not as fortunate. Now, New England put the Texans out of their misery in this one in the second half, and they will go on to host the AFC Championship game. And that's not a surprise for me, man. Billy Badass and Tom Terrific, they have done it time in and time out. It's a dynasty in New England, as much as it pains me to say it. It's a dynasty in New England. They just win, man. They just win, baby, win, to quote Al Davis. And the New England Patriots will be hosting the AFC Championship game. Who will be their opponent? Well, it will be Mr. Cheerleader himself, Mike Tomlin, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs 18-16. That's an odd score, right? 18-16. Now, this game was supposed to be played at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was switched to 8:20, man, because it was cold in Kansas City, and it was an ice storm in Kansas City. So that game got pushed back to late in the evening, and a NFL record 6 field goals was kicked by Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it gave them the 18-16 win. Now, KC, Kansas City, that is, had a first-round bye. Now, most teams after a first-round bye, they come out and they're ready to go. And Kansas City was ready to go, man. They went right down the field on their first possession. Head coach Andy Reid had those guys prepared. They went down and scored easily on that first possession. But Pittsburgh's defense tightened up for the rest of the game. Le'Veon Bell, outstanding running back, had 176 yards on the ground. And Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense did just enough to get themselves in playoff position. To get themselves in field goal position. And Chris Boswell knocked in 6 field goals. Now, Antonio Brown didn't have a big game, but he did come up with a big third down catch to ice it, pun intended. And the Pittsburgh Steelers will move on to play the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Andy Reid, man, you can't get that elusive Super Bowl victory this season, but Mike Tomlin will live on to cheerlead another day. So the AFC Championship game is set up. Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the hallmark franchises of the National Football League, versus the New England Patriots, another hallmark franchise. And the AFC Championship game should be a great one. I look forward to this game. The NFC Championship game is also set up. The Atlanta Falcons will host the Green Bay Packers. Matty Ice, Matt Ryan versus Mr. State Farm himself, Aaron Rodgers. NFL action is on and popping 10. NFL playoffs, man, you gotta love it. But I have to switch gears. But first, I have to take this commercial break. After the break, man, we're going to get into a little ACC basketball. NC State, Duke, Carolina. Also, local basketball in the CIAA with Shaw and St. Augs. And in the MEAC with North Carolina Central. I'm going to take another sip of my Harris Teeter Natural Spring Water. Check this commercial out. You're listening to the All Things Sport Podcast. I'm Damian Banks on Spreaker Radio. Damian Banks here for Austin Davenport Construction. If you're a new homeowner, old homeowner, or whatever the case may be, if you need work done on your home, look no further than Austin Davenport Construction. Austin Davenport Construction offers services such as building and repairing foundations, brickwork, home repair, waterproofing. Whatever you need, chances are Austin Davenport Construction can hook you up. If you need backsplash in the kitchen, they got you. If you want to get the roof work done, they got you. If you want new tile in the kitchen, they got you. New tile in the bathroom, I'm pretty sure they can hook you up. So if you want to get your new home worked on, you want to get your old home worked on, whatever you need, Austin Davenport Construction has your back. To contact Austin Davenport Construction, call 919-697-6912 or 919-450-7517. Also, email austindavenport@gmail.com or go to the website austindavenport.com. Austin Davenport Construction. Get your home done right.
The All Things Sport Podcast.
We go back like spinal cords and car seats.
With Damian Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio.
What's good? Welcome back to the All Things Sport Podcast. You are listening to Damian Banks. Go to the website, banksboy.com. Download this podcast, all the other old podcasts. You can download my blog, the YouTube channel. Man, it's a one-stop shop. If you love sports like me, then banksboy.com is the website for you. Like Arnold said, man, do it now. Get to the chopper. Anyway, I digress. Now, before the break, man, we talked a little bit about the NFL playoffs. The championship games are set up in the NFC. The Falcons will host the Packers. In the AFC, the Patriots will host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good luck to those prospective fan bases because those fan bases are rabid. The Packers fan bases go Pack Go. They love the Green Bay Packers. The Patriots fan bases are rabid. The Pittsburgh Steelers definitely has a rabid fan base. Now the Falcons fan base, I think the Falcons fan base is kind of like NC State's in that regard, that they have the potential to do great things. They have the potential to be good, but they always fall short. Now that's a beautiful segue into this next segment, man. We're going to talk about ACC basketball. Now the ACC basketball season is just underway. We're about 5 games into the basketball season on the conference side of the ACC. And Mark Gottfried and his NC State Wolfpack are in trouble, like Bernie Mac used to say. Now, the Wolfpack first conference game, they lost on the road at Miami. So I'm thinking, okay, it's on the road, it's at Miami. You know, it's no big deal. It's the first game of the season. We'll come back. We'll be better. And I say we because I'm a lifelong NC State fan. Although I didn't attend NC State, I went to Virginia State University, home of the VSU Trojans. You know, VSU, I love it. But I've been an NC State fan my whole life. So, you know, I back the Pack. So after the Pack loses to Miami in their ACC opener, they come home and they beat the brakes off of Virginia Tech, man, who was ranked 21st in the country at the time. So I'm thinking, yeah, man, that's more like it. I like what I'm seeing from this Wolfpack squad. But the very next game, you know, NC State loses by a record 51 points to their rival UNC. Now, you know, I'm like, okay, it's one game. It hurts to lose by 51 to your rival, but let's come out. The next 2 games, they play at Boston College, and then they host Georgia Tech. Those are 2 very, very winnable games for NC State. So Mark Gottfried and his team, they go out against Boston College and lay an egg, lose